I have moved forward and I timed out the panels that I have here, and to expedite the this video so it doesn't get too long. Now we do have some special type of panels. Some of you guys were talking about doing some camera movement and that kind of stuff in your work, and we can do that. You'll notice this panel, and I thought I would use this one as an example first. This panel has two things going on. This is a camera move, and so then it's called a pan and tilt. This frame here symbolizes the beginning of the frame, and if we follow the arrow down, this is going to be the end of the frame. So what we're actually doing is we're following this character's action as he slides down into the foxhole, okay, to get away from the machine gun fire. So, and you'll notice on the frame, this frame that starts the action is much smaller than our actual size frame. And so then what we want to do is we want to scale that, and then I want to make sure that I can see the background. And so I'm going to use Control Alt and Spacebar, and that's going to give me a magnifying glass, and it's going to make that smaller so I can see the whole image here. Okay. Now the other thing I'm going to do, and this is going to make things very easy to make a camera move, is I'm going to select this item. Now what I might need to do is I might need to do a copy on it. So I'm going to, I think what I'll do is I'll just copy the frame. Okay. And so I can just go in and copy the frames, which is Control Alt C. And now I'm going to go into Insert. And so if you hit Control F8, or you can go into Insert, and it'll say a new symbol, and Control F8 is right here. And then I can just name my symbol and just call it tilt and pan. Why not? Okay. And it'll say, what kind of symbol do you want to make? And I want to make it just as a graphic. A button is for interactive animations that you're going to do for the web or something like that. You can, if you wanted to have a, like, oh, click here and we'll go into the next movie, that would be a button. A movie clip is it's a self-contained movie. For what we're doing to make things easier and a little bit cheaper on the export side is I'm just going to make a graphic. Okay. And so now I've got a new window. It opens up a new window. And if you actually go to the library, inside the library, you can see all of the images that I've used. Those are all bitmap images. And then it says tilt and pan, which is right here. And I'm inside the tilt and pan. And so just to make sure, you can double click that. And you can relabel it if you want, but you can double click it or click from inside the window, and there we are. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click, paste frames, and so then paste frames is right here, and it's Control Alt V, and I can just paste that frame in there. And what I'm doing is I'm going to make a special type of keyframe, and that's called a symbol. Okay, and so I pasted this guy in there, and now I can do some work on it and not have to worry about anything happening to it. Like if I won't damage the actual image, but I can do some things with that particular JPEG or bitmap file. So now there's a little arrow to get back to my original screen. So I'm going to go back. I'm on scene 1, which is where I started. And just for the time being, I'm going to delete this image, and I'm going to go back and get my tilt and pan. I'm going to bring him in, and I'm going to drop him right there. And it'll be in exactly the same spot where we started with that keyframe. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and line that up. So I'm going to hit Q again. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. I'm going to hit Q, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key just so everything stays proportional. And I'm going to scale up my image, holding down the Shift key, making sure it's proportional. I'm going to scale up my image so that it fits right in the window. Now you can use symbols for lots of things, and you'll be able to see what you can use symbols for. And I believe someone from one of the classes even asks, is like, well, how do you use symbols? Well, how do you make a symbol? And this is how you make a symbol. So I'm using a symbol now from my library, and I'm going to be able to do this, be able to make it move. I'm sorry. And then you will see what we can do next. So now I've got it positioned into the aspect ratio. You can see the aspect is showing up through the bitmap. That's its default setting. And then I can bring this over here. This is my marker, and then I'm just going to make a new keyframe. Okay, not a blank keyframe, but make a new keyframe. So I'm going to hit the key F6. I want to make sure that you're hitting the F6 key and not the letter F and a number 6. So you're hitting the F6 key, and that's going to make a new keyframe. And that keyframe looks exactly like this keyframe right here. Okay, and so then what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to, I've hit Q, so it already knows that I want to scale it. So now I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to rotate my image here, making sure that I'm working on this keyframe where I want to see the action happen. I'm going to raise this up and grab it. Raise this up a little tiny bit here like this. I'm just going to drop that in, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to make my image smaller, or my bitmap smaller. And I'm going to just push this in there so I can get to my framing. Just a little bit more. Oops. And if you mess up, you can just hit Control Z. Every artist's friend. All right, so now I'm just going to hold down the shift key and make sure I get this proportional again. And almost right there like this. Now I'm just going to drop that down, make sure that fits. Okay, so now I have two images. If I go back, it's the same image, but I have two frames, I'm sorry, of my intended action. And now all I'll have to do is go back to the original keyframe, and I'm going to select it, and then I can right click, and you'll see up at the top it says create classic tween. Now you can use a create motion tween, that's for something different. There's a shape tween if you have shapes selected, and you can blend them into each other. But we're going to do a classic tween, okay? And then by doing a classic tween, you see it's going to turn this frame area, or where your frames are, purple. And then if I move my slider along, it's just going to take those two things and it's going to turn it into a camera move. So then if I turn on my camera, we can see that the image is going to start here, and it's going to work its way down, and it's going to slide down and through. So that's how we can do a camera move. And another thing we can do is we can make a transition. Here I'm going to make this a little bit more impactful, this explosion. I want that to have a little bit more impact to it. I'm going to add a layer, and by adding the layer I just come down and there's a little box with a plus sign, and that's add a new layer. Okay, so I can add a new layer here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab these frames. They're almost to the end. I'm going to grab all of them, and so just by grabbing them I'm selecting them, and I'm going to bring them up to the next layer. And what that's done is now I can just insert a blank keyframe on my layer 1 to tell the image or this bitmap that's being shown to stop appearing. And then I can just have an image right here. Now what I want to do is I want to have this bright flash happen right here. And then I'm going to, on this frame, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to click on that frame, so then it'll select on my timeline. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy it like I did before. So I can just go Command copy or Control copy, and I can just go back in and insert a new symbol. Okay, and I'm just going to call this explosion. Okay, and I'm going to make sure that it's a graphic, because we weren't really needed to do anything else, so just make sure it's a graphic. And then I'm going to paste in that frame. So now it's in there. We can see it's called explosion. So let's go back out to my timeline, and we'll just go find that first key, which is right here. And then I'm just going to select this guy because this is just bitmap and we're not going to use that. So what we want to do is we want to replace it with my symbol. So I'm going to take my symbol and I'm going to drop him in over here and just make sure it clicks in. It should snap if you it should snap to your aspect. So now I have a symbol in here, and so what I can do is I'm going to add a keyframe as I did before, and then we're going to so I have a keyframe here, and I'm going to add another keyframe right here. So I'm going to hit F6. So same thing's going to happen. It's going to look the same. There's no change to that image, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this start to go white. Okay, like it's so bright, it's gonna go white. So I'm going to go back to my properties and I'm going to click on my image inside the stage, and then where it says color effects, I'm going to bring this to tint, and on tint it's set to black right now. It's set to black. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to white. Okay, so I have my last frame is white, and then from here all I have to do is I can click on this frame here and right click, create classic tween, and then you're going to see as this moves it goes white. Okay, so white and then oof, like that. Now we could make this a transition as well. This could transition so it's so white and it fades in here. I think you get the idea of making a symbol. I think that is enough for you to get started. You should have an idea of doing symbols, like I said. You can use those symbols to create transitions and that sort of thing with your work. This will end this discussion on creating an animatic. An animatic, as we said before, was a simple tool to show timing and set up your keys for your animation. Hopefully, all of this has made some sense, and I'll look forward to see your animatics and can't wait to see your animated projects for the final. Thanks again, and have a good one.